Hey baby! So today I have an article on nuclear power in Australia. Very short article, close to a blog post. Might actually be a blog post because I don't think this guy is a journalist. So this article's been written by Gregory Andrews, who does a lot of climate environment. Here we go. Yeah, climate and environment advocacy and policy work, I guess. And I think a lot of advocating for Indigenous knowledge about how to care for the environment and how to keep things bushfire safe. Uh, let's have a look at the About Me. Let's see who I've actually been reading. Oh, adjunct associate professor. That sounds painful. At the University of Canberra, Anna Daharawal man. His key passions are the environment and Indigenous empowerment. Okay. Oh, he's got quite the resume. You can download his CV. Cool. Anyway, what we care about today is what he's written on nuclear and renewables. So this was published pretty recently. It was March 4th. Why go nuclear? For Australia, renewables are cheaper and faster. When my nephew recently asked rhetorically, why wouldn't nuclear be cheaper, I realized that political smoke screening on nuclear energy is having its desired effect. So what was my response? The first thing I said was, I'm technology neutral. I'm open to all sources of energy as long as they're zero emissions, reliable, safe, and low cost. My second point was, on that basis, Australia doesn't need nuclear because it's too expensive and slow in comparison to renewables. My third point was that the LNP spruiking of nuclear isn't about climate action or decarbonisation, it's a hand grenade thrown for distraction and delay. Exploring the case of Spain illuminates why renewables are the clear choice for Australia's energy future. Read on to understand more. Future.read. I wonder if that's an actual link. Maybe a typo. Yeah. In Spain, high renewable energy investment has led to significantly lower electricity prices. Solar and wind generation now account for over 50% of electricity production and have driven electricity prices down to nearly €2 per megawatt hour. That compares to €67 per megawatt hour in France, which is heavily reliant on nuclear power. This stark difference highlights the economic, commercial and social benefits of investing in renewables over nuclear, especially for Australia, which, like Spain, has abundant solar and wind resources. Australia's renewable energy resources are immense. Our solar and wind resources are capable of generating much more electricity than we consume. The potential is not just theoretical. We've already been making strides in the rollout of renewables. South Australia, for example, often runs at 100% renewables, and the Australian Capital Territory is already at 100%. Investing in renewables offers several advantages for Australia, especially in the context of the cost of living. Firstly, the cost of generating electricity from renewable sources like wind and solar has plummeted globally, making it the cheapest form of new electricity generation. Solar and wind power can provide low-cost electricity to consumers, contributing to lower energy bills and alleviating the cost of living pressures. According to the CSIRO, nuclear options in Australia would cost between 5 and 10 times more. Secondly, renewable energy projects can be deployed much faster than nuclear, meaning they can start delivering benefits to the grid and to consumers much sooner. Given that the world has already hit the Paris Agreement's 1.5 centigrade threshold, rapid deployment capability is crucial. Small modular reactors, such as Peter Dutton talks about, have never been built anywhere in the world. They're still only ideas. Moreover, the decentralization potential of renewables, particularly solar, can empower Australian households and businesses to generate their own electricity, further driving down costs and enhancing energy security. This contrasts with the centralized nature of nuclear power, which requires significant infrastructure, security, and upfront investment, translating into higher costs for consumers. The solar panels on the roof of my house mean we don't pay power companies anything for electricity. Indeed, they pay us for the surplus electricity we generate and share to the grid. Environmental and safety considerations also favor renewables over nuclear. Renewable energy projects have much smaller environmental footprints and do not produce hazardous waste, unlike nuclear power, which requires radioactive waste management and brings with it the risk of accidents like those at Chernobyl and Fukushima. Spain's experience underscores the economic and environmental viability of scaling up renewables for Australia. The lessons are clear. Investing in solar and wind leads to lower electricity prices, faster decarbonisation, and greater energy independence and security? The answer to the nuclear question is a simple one. Australia doesn't need it. Our abundant renewable energy resources provide a much more cost-effective, commercially viable, and safer means of meeting our energy needs and addressing the urgent challenge of climate change. Let's not fall victim to Peter Dutton and the LNP's tactics of distraction and delay. So I knew that there was like a broader conversation happening around it recently because Pat brought it up, and I was like, why is Pat of all people randomly talking about nuclear? It seemed very much like, oh, they're scared of like technology, why are they so scared of the future, kind of thing, which I'm sure he just like stumbled across tangentially and picked up, but it did irritate me. So I was pleased to stumble across this Gregory guy on Twitter, and let's have a look at his sources. So Spain's electricity prices. Let's have a look at that first. Right, he's linked to an article in Bloomberg, which, if I remember correctly, is like a financial paper. Spanish power is almost free with renewables set for record. Prices in Spain are near €2 per megawatt hour compared with €67 in France. Strong solar and wind generation is expected to continue. By Eamon Farhat. So this is another recent article, Feb 2024. Electricity prices in Spain slumped to almost nothing as the nation's wind and solar parks are churning out more power than ever. Day-ahead prices have remained below €10 per megawatt hour for the last week, and output in the Mediterranean nation is on track for a record this month. And then you have to either sign up or pay, and I'm not going to do that. I could probably look this article up in the Wayback Machine? Maybe someone saved it. But, I mean, right in the title, it gives us the same information as Gregory was quoting, so the chances that they spring anything too new on us, it doesn't seem very likely, does it? Oh no, something's gone wrong. His other major link was that nuclear options in Australia would cost between 5 and 10 times more than it would be to go fully renewable. Oh, sorry, as an alternative to renewables, not to go fully renewable. So he's linked to a CSIRO article from December 2023. The question of nuclear in Australia's energy sector. In Australia's transition to net zero emissions, the energy sector has a major role to play. But does nuclear power have a place in our future grid? Key points. Nuclear power does not currently provide an economically competitive solution in Australia. Lead author of Gen Cost, Paul Graham, says updated costs for a key project in the US have been found to be very high, and the cost for small modular reactors could improve over time but will be too late to make a significant contribution to achieving net zero emissions. And so he breaks this down further. No idea what Gen Cost is, but it seems like a pretty detailed report since they're dedicating all this space to it. The 6th Gen Cost report was released as a draft for public consultation on 21st December. Let's have a look at that. Levelized cost, updated cost from key. Scrolling through this stuff, honestly, I'd bullied my ex into getting... Well, I did the research and then he agreed to pay for it. Solar panels installed on his roof. At this point, he would be making money now. He wouldn't be paying for any electricity. And it's one of those good things that I did for him that I'm kind of bitter about. It's like... I still have to pay for electricity and it drives me nuts. The cost of the roof installation was more or on par at that time, so 4 or 5 years ago, than the cost of the solar panels themselves. So I guess what we're probably looking at now is just the amount of work it would take to improve batteries, and how good would it be if we could export just full batteries to countries. Yeah, I'm not too interested in this report. I don't think I have the time to develop the sense for what it's saying. He had this reference. I think that was an accidental link. Yeah, that's not a thing. And this other thing over here that looked like an accidental link as well. Our solar. Immense.solar. No, there is a a solar installation place in this country that's called like Immense something, Immense Contractors. But I don't think he was actually referencing these guys. I think he was probably trying to shove an adjective in there and it just accidentally turned into a hyperlink. Um, yeah, let's ignore that. Okay, so two major resources here, but Bloomberg, pretty credible, CSIRO, very credible, even though they've got that dumb as fuck CEO now, and they've had a lot of funding cut. I mean, they've got, if they're able to push back against their little gas giant slave lords, then seems pretty good to me. That's a comment on Australian politics. Michael Bowles has replied to this blog post. Hi Greg, I agree with all that you were saying here, but I wish you went into more detail on how Spain generates its solar electricity. A large proportion of Spain's electricity is generated from concentrating solar power stations, so CSPs, with thermal storage. A vast proportion of the Australian population is unaware of this technology. CSP with storage provides baseload and dispatchable electricity 24/7. I hope you can find the time to reply to this comment, as discussion in Australia is needed to educate the population on CSP. Let's have a look at that. That sounds interesting. ABC article from 2023. Not that these guys are great anymore. Cool little crop circle situation here with the solar panels. A technology that once rivaled solar panels. The idea of CSP is so simple that the technology hasn't changed much in decades. Italy built the first CSP plant in 1968 and California installed the first commercial scale array in 1981. Because at that time solar panels were expensive and mostly used in blah blah, CSP relied on familiar technologies such as steam turbines. What is CSP's role in the grid? Last week, the CSIRO's Renewable Energy Storage Roadmap report indicated the national electricity market, which is all of Australia except the Northern Territory and WA. How is that all of Australia? That's at most 2/3, but probably closer to half, right? Could require a 10 to 14-fold increase in its electricity storage capacity between 2025 and 2050. Solar, wind and storage should dominate the grid in 2050, forecast electricity generation storage in the NEM. Oh well, I didn't expect the numbers to look like this, actually. Decent hydro streak, huge increase in wind, solar PV, solar photovoltaic, and then distributed photovoltaic. I don't know the difference between those two. I've got a fucking lot of reading to do. Dispatchable storage building up slowly at the bottom here. Is that building up? Alright, let's charge. Alright, this might have to be a separate video. I knew there was stuff I didn't know, but why is there so much stuff I didn't know? Who else has commented on this that has something interesting to say? Eric Hutner replied to that blog post too. I agree with your analysis regarding speed of deployment, costs, benefits of decentralization, etc., but the comparison of prices between Spain and France are overly simplistic and misleading. Electricity can cost anything at various times. Cost of wind and solar power, including the environmental costs, space needed, etc., has to include storage. And yeah, we saw that when I went to that Bloomberg article, was that it dropped to €2 at some points, but that I think they said it averaged 10. Still a lot better than €67, but 2 wasn't like a fixed price there. It was just like a best record. Yeah, Perry Hobbs said the same thing. I believe that €2 per megawatt hour is a spot price. What's the price when renewables can't supply? What is Spain's average power price? Our power prices here can be very low as well. Solar and wind can be very cheap when they are on. The problem is that they aren't on all the time, and the legacy generators need to be on constantly, as they can't spin up to full power under a couple of hours. This leads to them charging massive amounts when they are relied upon for power. Like it or not, Australia will move to nuclear or build new coal-fired power plants. There is only so much renewable power that we can have before we get grid instability and brown blackouts. While some of us won't be able to weather blackouts for a day every couple of weeks or so, the industry won't. So they will then move. See, I don't think so, especially not just based on that CSP article I pulled up over here and the net electricity market diagram that they have. I think, as I understand it, as a layperson, the issue that we're looking at really is improving our batteries, which aren't as good as our capacity to generate. And since we have like such a capacity to generate, we've got fucking aeons worth of desert in the middle of this country. Why would we not capitalize on that, and instead of trying out something untested like those small modular reactors, put more funding and research into batteries? Maybe there's a reason not to do that, but I feel like an argument would have been made by a pro-renewables person first if that was the case. And this person's saying, if everyone promoting small nuclear reactors were actually serious, then they would need to be promoting the electrification of all of our machines and transport. If you drive an ICE vehicle, you cannot take advantage of nuclear electricity because the vehicle only works with fossil fuel. If you have a gas hot water system and a gas cooktop, again you cannot take advantage of nuclear, as these devices cannot use electricity produced by nuclear. If Dun and the LNP were in fact serious, they would have a detailed electrification plan for Australians' residential premises and industry at large. They would also have a detailed plan for the upgrade of the network to supply the electricity generated from the SNR, as they are meant to be small and can be stored in everyone's backyard. Oh, really? I didn't realize that these modular reactors were supposed to be that small. I really have no idea of what claims are being made by that side of the political spectrum. I don't follow the two major parties. So this is new to me. Great article, Greg. Could you please add the benefits of bidirectionally charged EVs to your thinking? Says someone called Nigel Howard. Could be fun. Let's open that. John Mendew's Public Policy Journal. Looks... could be a gold mine, could be full of bizarre QAnon type thinking. Hard to say based just on the setup of this website. Mr. Gregory's definitely looks way more professional. But I think that's enough for today. Okay, love you baby, bye.